So first of all, I want to tell you how I learned about intelligent disobedience. I was conducting a workshop on one of my other books, and I was talking about authority, how most of the time it makes sense to comply with what you're being told to do. But sometimes it doesn't. Why? The person in authority may have wrong information and may be asking you to do something that will not have a good outcome if you do it the way they have asked you to do it. A woman raised her hand and she said, yes, I have an example of that under the table. What did she have under the table? She had a dog under the table. And she explained to us that this dog was being trained to be a guide dog for a blind person. And that for the first 18 months of the dog's life, it lived with her family, and it learned to obey all the commands it would need to know when it went to work with the person who it was assigned to. She said, but then after that 18 months, it goes to a higher level trainer to teach it intelligent disobedience. I'd never heard that term. I said, what is that? She said, well, think about it. If the dog gets a command to cross the street, to go forward, and there's a quiet hybrid car coming around the corner, it must not obey. If it obeys, it's going to get him hurt or even killed. So they have to work with the dog to learn to differentiate when to obey, which is 98% of the time, and when not to obey, which is crucial. And if the dog cannot learn to differentiate between those two conditions, it can't be a guide dog because it's going to get them hurt or killed. And I thought, we can teach dogs this? Okay. So I went to the oldest guide dog training school in the United States and asked them to show me, how do you do this? Think about this. After you have trained the dog to obey, how do you get it to differentiate when to disobey and how to disobey in a way that's productive? So here's an example. Every day, the dog and the human that it's working with walks to the train station so the human being can commute to work. Yesterday, there was a storm. There are power lines down. There are tree limbs down. The human doesn't know this because, they can't see what's in front of them. The dog sees the obstacle and it stops. It does not obey with the command to go forward. But can it just leave them there? No, of course it can't. So it now has to move into problem-solving mode. It has to figure out, is there a way to safely get to the train station? Now the dog can jump over things, go under things. It has to figure out a way that the team can get there safely. In other words, take into account the capacities of the human being. And if it can't figure out a way to get to the goal, it has to get them back safely to home base. This is pretty extraordinary when you think about it. So based on this, I use this as a metaphor to do further research and write this book called Intelligent Disobedience, Doing Right When What You're Told to Do is Wrong. And I want to clarify this. When you're told to do something that's wrong, it's not necessarily that you're being told to do something unethical. It might be. But it's that the outcome of the order will have a bad effect if implemented. So one has to figure out, despite the circumstances, when and how to say, no, this isn't the right thing to do.